Good afternoon, this is Nicholas from Gandora Gaming, and this is me talking about Dinomorphias and the potential they have in the upcoming formats. Dinomorphia, if you don't know, is a pay half your life points trap-based archetype that revolves around dinosaurs. The whole gimmick of the deck is that they revolve around counter traps and normal traps to summon out powerful fusion monsters to just say no to your opponent. And his deck wants to play with very, very little life points. And it's a really cool gimmick, but because you're paying so many life points, that it could be scary. And a lot of players, I feel like, who just are getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! See a deck that's like paying half multiple times a turn, and are kind of just don't want to play this deck, especially when Trap Trick is like a $30 structure deck, and that's a pretty solid deck. And Labyrinth is just pretty solid as well. So this is kind of like the third stepchild of the format. Technically fourth if you count Eldritch, because everyone's like, if you want to play a budget trap-based deck that's like easy to get into, that's Trap Trick. That's very easy. Buy 3 structure decks. You have a competitive, playable deck, which is pretty awesome. If you want to go for the more I would argue the most powerful trap deck in this format, which would be Labyrinth. You put some money in, you're good to go. If you don't want to think about playing like really control-based traps, you just want to say, I'm playing skill drain deck, then of course you're playing Eldritch. But Dinomorphia kind of fits in this weird middle ground where it's a floodgate deck, but you're paying half your life points, and you're not really playing floodgates. Your monsters are the floodgates, which is pretty interesting. If you don't know, their boss monster, which is Dinomorphia Rexum. Rexum is just a walking skill drain, which is kind of insane. This deck is one of the only like controlled decks, I would say, that can kill you turn 2, which makes me really happy. You can play cards like Psychic and Punisher and a whole bunch of like really interesting cards that could just ruin your opponent's day. And I really like this archetype. I think I liked it since it came out all the way back. And the same set that I'm trying to figure out the same set with the ritual archetype, the Libromancers. They came out at the same time. And they got support and Dimension Force, but they haven't received support since until today. There's been 4 new cards revealed. Only one of them is actual direct Dinomorphia support, and everything else kind of just helps the deck in general, but it's not Dinomorphia support, but it is Dinomorphia support. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go over those cards and talk about the potential of deck building and like what this deck can do, which is pretty insane. Alright, so we're going to go in chronological order of the cards being released, because I feel like that would be the best way to do it. So first things first, I think one of the most powerful cards Dinomorphia is getting is literally coming out next week, and no one's talking about it. This, if you don't know, is Soul of the Supreme King. This card is played in Master Duel, funny enough, and it's actually a pretty powerful card. So basically what it does is that you pay half your life points, which is the whole gimmick of Dinomorphia. Special summon 1 Supreme King Zark from your X deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, but negate its effects. Then return it to the extra deck during the end phase of that turn. When your opponent activates a spell effect or effect, you banish this card from your grave, and 1 Supreme King Zark from your face-up monster zone. Special summon up to 1 of each Pendulum Dragon, XYZ Dragon, Synchro Dragon, or Fusion Dragon monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck, or graveyard. This card is actually pretty insane. Basically, if your opponent activates Spell Interruption that turn, which they're going to because you're a trap-based deck, you can just chain this card in your graveyard, banish Zark, special summon like 4 boss monsters from your extra deck, which is pretty insane. Now you're probably wondering, what are the targets for this deck? Well, there's plenty of targets. Crystal Wing, Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon. We have Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. We have Starving Venom. There's so many like different targets that this card can summon. It's kind of ridiculous. And the fact that it cheats them out is also great. So it helps you just spam the board with all these boss monsters. And it's just really cool. And I think that it's kind of like a deterrent. So if your opponent decides, hey, I don't want to deal with your back row, they'd be like, cool, you got to deal with my monsters that I just spam down my extra deck, which is kind of insane if you think about it. The fact that you're like, okay, I'm a control deck. I'm playing like 20 like floodgates. but I'm also like summoning out like gigantic ass boss monsters for like other archetypes. Like the fact that you can like special summon like the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, that's like the boss monster for like freaking what's it called? What's that Synchron deck called? I'm trying to Speedroids. It's kind of crazy. The fact that you can just like pop out all these boss monsters from other archetypes is kind of insane. Like if you summon out Brave Dragon, he just makes all monsters currently on the field 0 besides your monsters, which is pretty insane. And then to get the activate effects of all monsters with 0 attack, which is also pretty insane. And then of course this card can attack at the end of the damage step. When its card attacks an opponent's monster, is not destroyed by battle, but banished the opponent's monster. This card's insane. Not to mention, Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon is not only a monster negate, but it's also a quick effect to negate the activation of a spell or trap card. So it's really great there too. Now, I would say Fusion Starry Venom isn't really the best option, but he is still a big boy, and if he dies, he is still nuking your opponent's field. So that's still pretty solid in my opinion. So you can definitely play your different kinds of cards, and especially this card only gets better the more cards that are dragons that they keep printing out that can be summoned off this card. Mark my words, this card has huge potential for trap decks going forward, especially for Dinomorphia for the pay half. Really powerful card in general. Alright, so the next card that we're getting is just good for all trap decks, in my personal opinion. This card is just kind of bonkers. Time Rendering Morganite is just an insane card in general. This card just says, hey, apply these effects. You can no longer activate monster effects in hand for the rest of the duel, but you get to draw 2 cards instead of your normal draw during the draw phase, and you get 2 normal summons. Now, a lot of trap decks will benefit from this card. For example, Paleo is going to love this card, and a whole bunch of other like cool, interesting strategies. But I feel like Dinomorphia does it the best. Labyrinth has monsters that I want to activate in hand, so it's not really best in Labyrinth. What's it called? Trap Tricks. They have that new monster that you want to summon from hand as well, so that's not great either. Not to mention, if you're trying to play hand traps, you can't really play hand traps anymore because this card just negates hand traps basically. But overall, this card is kind of insane. It's just double summon plus draw 2, meaning you can have Pharesia and Diplos in hand, and then normal summon both of them, and then just summon out a Doga or a Lagia, which is kind of insane. I think this card just gets better and better, and I think this deck has huge potential. Now, this card comes out, if my knowledge serves me correctly, in Signet Overflow or Signet, whatever that Signet set is called, that's coming out next in May. I think this set's going to be huge right away. I think this set is going to be one of the biggest sets of the year. Really huge potential for these cards. I can't wait to see what Konami does. Overall, this card is absolutely insane, and it's probably going to be $100 card. This card's stupid. Now, if you are priced out of this card, no worries. There's most likely going to be 100 different tech options instead of this card. Power Prosperity is still expensive too, so you can play the new Predaplant Draw 2 card. Or you can play Extravagance. There's a lot of different targets. Now another card that's coming out of that same Signet set. We have the new Dinomorphia Counter Trap. This card's actually insane. This is Dinomorphia Intact. This is a counter trap. When a monster effect is activated and you control a Dinomorphia card, pay half your life points. Any battle damage you would take for the rest of this turn becomes half your life points at the start of the damage step if you would take it, basically, and then destroys that monster. So not only is it Solemn Strike, but also for the rest of this turn, you cannot die from battle, which is kind of insane. The fact that you just can no longer die from battle for the rest of the turn. Any damage you take is just halved. It's just halved. It just halves your life points instead. So like, let's say a person hits you, it's like, oh cool. Instead of like doing the actual damage to me, it's just having my life points. So that's kind of insane, especially when you get Psychic and Punisher involved. If you just keep having, and you summon a Psychic and Punisher on field, what is your opponent going to do? You're going to have like 25 life points to your opponent. and your opponent is going to have 8,000, and you're going to summon Second Again Punisher, and he's going to be literally ridiculous. He's going to be so big you just lose. Don't forget, the Rex Room is a level 8, so any level 3 tuner does it, which is pretty insane. That is just a kind of insane card in general. You don't need to worry about Second Again Punisher. Don't forget, you have all your other cards. Having your life points will never kill you. That's why Solemn Judgment is just a great card in general. But I just think like this card just solves one of the biggest issues with Dinomorphia. They lose the battle phase. They just, I summoned a monster, or I stopped your trap cards. You have your life points. Well, you just lose. Well, this card says, nah, bruh, I don't lose. I'm also negating your monster and destroying it, and I can't be killed by battle. The only issue I have is it is a counter trap, which is a good and bad thing. The good thing about it is your opponent can't respond to it with, let's say, a normal Omni Negate, which is great. But the other turn of it is your Dinomorphia Kitchagina cannot copy it. She can only copy normal traps. I wish you can copy any Dinomorphia trap, but hey, what can you do? They had to balance the card. This card's still pretty insane and overall a great card in general that we're getting in May, by the way. So that's 3 cards down, but we still have another card that was literally my last video before I took my little vacation from making videos. And that card is this new trap card for the Transcendent Drakes, which I'm showing you right now. Now, I went over this card already. It's basically just back to the front, but better for dinosaurs. Basically allows you to spell summon a dinosaur monster from your graveyard or banish, which is pretty solid. It is trap trickable, so you play it as like a 2-of in your deck. Just to be like, okay, they lava golden me or they cleared my monster. Cool. Affected this trap trick, bring it back, and then bring back my monster, which is pretty solid. I think this card has potential, just Dinomorphia in general. I don't know what other deck would be playing this card. And even if you don't like it, there's fine. We still have those 3 other solid cards. I think this card is a cool solid 2-of in the deck, or if not 1-of. I just think it's just really solid. The fact that you just reborn any of your Dinomorphias. Because that is the one issue with Dinomorphias. Once you clear their boss monsters, they didn't really get them back. They do float lower, so like Rexum floats into, Kenchagina, and Kenchagina floats into the little ones, but they don't float back up. So if you go through all 3 copies of your Rexum from your extra deck, or you're going against Kashtira, and they banish like 2 copies of them, and you summon the one, and they cleared it, well, then what do? Well, this allows you to reborn the ones from your graveyard or banish that were properly summoned, which is pretty swell. I think this card has huge potential for Dinomorphias in general, and that's really just about it. This card doesn't come out until Wild Survivors, which is much later. That's not until June. But I think out of all the cards I discussed so far, I think this is the weakest one. But it's still really cool. I just wanted to mention it. So that's really it for all the new cards we have revealed for this archetype that's just getting support. But as you can see, there's a lot of huge potential for Dinomorphia, or just trap decks as a whole. Especially Dinomorphia, though. But that's really about it. That was just my rant about these cards. I do have a little deck list I can show you real quick. It's not perfect. I kind of just threw it together. But it has the potential. I won't lie. It has the potential for greatness. You can tell me if the ratios are wrong. I'm still playtesting, so we'll see how it goes. This is the list I got on Dueling Nexus. As you can see, I'm playing the Zark cards and the new other cards. The only card I do not have is the new Transcendent Drake Trap. The only reason I don't is because it's not in Dueling Nexus yet, so I couldn't actually put it in. But it's fine because it would have been only a 2-of anyway. But this is my build so far. I could probably introduce more cards that prevent burn damage. So far, the only one that stops that is the... Actually, I don't think any of these stop. It's just the continuous spell, the continuous traps, which is Frenzy and the Domain. But besides that, I think this is a pretty solid list. You can tell me in the comments if you like it or not. And that's really about it. I hope you all enjoy. I'll see you all in the next one. Dinomorphia best deck. Bye-bye.